Hello, 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 I'm HoJo.
And I'm Hunnsy.
And welcome to this, the 41st episode of HoJo and Huntsy's Hard Rock House, the safe space for old rock gumbies just like us, where we're still trying to work out what the hell Ronnie Dio was on about when he told us to ride the tiger and that we could see his stripes and knew he was clean. I just came across that lyric today, Hunnsy, and it reminded me of how utterly stupid the words to Holy Diver are.
Brilliant song, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good traditional heavy metal song.
Yeah, maybe he was referring to the Tring Museum of Stuffed Animals.
I'd like it if he was.
Maybe he got stoned and been there and thought, oh, there's a stuffed tiger, I fancy riding that. That's a lyric.
And then he took a look at it and went, I need to know that it's clean, though. I don't want to ruin my trousers.
Oh, it looks a bit dusty.
Yeah, a bit dirty. Maybe I won't. Ride a tiger, blah-de-blah. You know he's clean. Do you know what I mean? No, I don't.
No, I don't.
I've got a fucking notion what you're on about.
And he doesn't bother to explain it later on the song, does he?
They need asterisks, those lyrics, don't they, from Ronnie Dio? And a little explainer at the bottom of each album sleeve.
Oh, look, he was unapologetic, Ronnie's lyrics. Nobody knew really what it was going on about.
Was he on the puff, do you think?
I don't know.
It would explain a lot, though, wouldn't it?
He was just who he was, wasn't he?
Well, there's no arguing with that comment.
You knew what you were going to get from Ronnie, didn't you?
Well, you knew that you were not going to understand what he was on about.
Yeah.
That was my favourite, Ride the Tiger. You can see his stripes and you know he's clean. But he did some other good things, didn't he? Like Stargazer and all that.
Oh, I remember when I think, God, one of the early episodes that we did when I claimed that Rob Halford was the greatest heavy metal vocalist of all time. I got a lot of flack off that. And
Ronnie Dio.
Well, I couldn't, could I? He's not around, is he?
He's not with us anymore.
I didn't reverse out of that statement. What I did was I said, Rob Halford is the greatest living heavy metal vocalist.
Yes, okay.
Whereas I think Ronnie Dio, unequivocally, the best metal singer ever. Has to be.
Maybe not the best lyricist. Needed work. 6 out of 10.
Yeah, but when you're a 14, 15-year-old Gumby,
yeah,
that stuff's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all mystical.
Mystical.
And I'm not clever enough to understand this.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You listen to Stargazer and you just go, what on earth?
In the wind and the rain with whips and chains.
Brilliant, isn't it?
What are you talking about?
But when you've grown up in Sunderland and it's grey and miserable, whips and chains are quite exciting, aren't they?
Are you into bondage? Is that your thing?
Or sex people like Rammstein.
Yeah, no? Sex people. Oh, I'm not into that.
No, neither am I.
I don't want to be hurt. Ow. Oh, that really smarts.
Yeah. Oh, that burns.
Oh, no. Stop it. So anyway, that was the intro to the show.
I've never had you down as listening to Holy Diver, to be honest with you.
I have listened to it in my time, obviously. But those lyrics just popped into my head this morning. I don't know why.
I got a little bit excited there. This is a prelude into what HoJo's been listening to.
No, sadly not.
What a shame.
Sadly not.
Because if you'd been listening to Holy Diver, it would have been a long episode. You'd have struggled to edit this one. That album means a lot to me.
Does it? What about the sleeve? There's a vicar in the water.
There is a vicar in the water.
Has he got glasses on? I think he has.
No, they've come off.
They've come off in the water.
Well, they would, wouldn't they?
They would,
yeah. And he's
they
been,
definitely.
And there's like Chains and the Demon.
Yeah.
Denzel the Dragon, isn't it? And all that sort of stuff. It's an iconic sleeve as well, isn't it?
Well. Iconic's a one word for it, I suppose. Anything to do with sword and sorcery and devils, I always just went, this is shit. I know I'm in a minority because endless heavy metal albums still come out today with that kind of cover, don't they? So people must like it.
I had the Rainbow Rising album cover on the back of my denim jacket.
Yeah. There were no devils on that, though.
No, but the fist coming through the rainbow, and it's just like, oh, what.
Do you remember when you had that phase when you kept doing the fist?
Still do it. The song that gets the fist out straight away is Neon Nights. Again, Ronnie James Dio.
And what does Neon Nights mean?
I don't know.
Nobody knows, do they? Don't ask awkward questions. Just enjoy the riffs.
Oh, that song, Neon Nights. Come on.
My friend Tony's involved, so I like that.
Yeah, that's got to be in the top 5 metal songs of all time. Neon Nights has to be.
Okay.
If you remember, it was played at my wedding. Mrs. Hunn's, I mean, God, this is why I married her. She allowed me at our wedding to have a heavy metal half hour. Do you remember?
Yeah, but I think that's kind of a funny thing, really. I thought about this when you got married. It's supposed to be an equal partnership of marriage, isn't it?
Yeah.
The word allowed alarmed me. It sounds like she's got the upper hand, or should I say in Ronnie Dio style, the whip hand. Ow, that hurts. Because it sounded like she's in charge and she gave you dispensation to play silly music, but only for half an hour.
For me, it was more of a declaration of her love and her understanding of what really, really matters
to you.
There's a lot of people at my wedding who liked heavy metal.
I presume a lot of people who didn't.
Yeah, they left. Oh, come on. The opening track was Fast as a Shark.
I sat this out, do you remember?
Because you're a non-believer.
I couldn't be doing that.
You observed it, didn't you?
I did. I observed it from afar.
Jerry Ewing had a leg brace on and he was still up. He'd broken his leg at download after falling off a table.
I feel these people are not people you should aspire to be. That's probably why I sat it out.
Anyway, back to the point. Neon Nights was one of the 5 songs I chose.
Yeah.
And there was lots of fisting. No, there wasn't lots of fisting.
That hurts. Yeah, so I don't know where we're going with this, do you?
No, we should get on
Should
with
we talk about the serious stuff, like you being a rock and roll sleuth?
What do you mean?
Well, you're a rock and roll detective this week, aren't you?
I am. Oh, yes.
You just didn't know what the word sleuth meant.
I was wondering what you were referring to, but it came to me.
Tell the single-digit listener what you found out this week, because I've got a good addendum to this as well when you've finished.
So I posted earlier this week a little bit of a hint of what we were going to be talking about on the previous episode, right, which was a Kings of the Sun video. We talked about Kings of the Sun.
We did.
And I got contacted by somebody via our Facebook group who was clearly an expert in all matters of Kings of the Sun. They knew the band, they were friends with the band, and we started having a bit of a conversation. And one of the things that came to light was Kings of the Sun had a bit of a hoo-ha back in the day with Guns N' Roses. Mm-hmm. They said something in an article in the Australian press that Guns N' Roses were just a rip-off of Rose Tattoo.
Yeah.
And that didn't go down too well with Guns N' Roses.
In the GNR camp.
Yeah, particularly when Kings of the Sun were supporting them on their Australian leg of the tour. Whoops-a-daisy. So
they put it off the tour, did they?
Yeah, I think they got politely asked to leave. Anyway, having this conversation with this guy, and then he went, they ripped off other people as well, Guns N' Roses. They were charlatans, they were thieves. And I was going, right. This is interesting. And he basically sent me a link to a song by an Australian band. The song's called Unpublished Critics.
Right.
And the band were called Australian Crawl.
Now, I do know this because you shared this with me immediately, didn't you?
So he said, go and listen to Unpublished Critics by a band called Australian Crawl, and you will never be able to listen to Sweet Child of Mine ever again in the same way. And
boy, oh boy, when I listened to it after you sent it to me, was he ever right?
Fucking hell. It's unbelievable. And then he gave me a bit of background.
This is where it gets interesting, isn't it?
The producer that Guns N' Roses originally wanted to do Appetite, they ended up getting Mike Klink, but originally they wanted a guy called Mark Opitz.
Mark Opitz, who's an Australian I know worked with In Excess, and I think maybe Midnight Oil as well.
Ah, right. He's the guy that apparently Guns N' Roses originally wanted. Now, not coincidentally, Opitz was the producer of Australian Crawl, right? So it stands to reason, really, doesn't it, that Guns N' Roses had probably listened to a bit of Australian Crawl before coming to that.
To check out Mark Opitz's producing credential.
Now, the track that we're referring to, Unpublished Critics, was then released in the US, right, on a compilation album called Semantics. Right. Well before Appetite for Destruction came out, because obviously Appetite came out in 1987. Semantics came out in 1984. And another common thread is, guess what? Same label. Geffen.
This Semantics compilation was released by Geffen.
Yeah.
So this seems indisputable. Once you've heard Unpublished Critics by Australian Crawl, there is no denying. It doesn't sound like the same stylistically, not hard rock.
New wavy rock, yeah.
But there's no doubt that a load of the melodies, a load of the guitar licks are an absolute precursor of Sweet Child of Mine. I was talking about this with Mrs. Johnson, and it struck me after listening to that and going, gosh, that is incredible. That is so similar. That when you actually think about it, Sweet Child of Mine doesn't really sound like anything else than Appetite for Destruction, does it?
No.
Quite a different type of song to anything else. And then Mother Johnson being clever, she said, if there's never been any legal shenanigans about this, Because I've never heard that anyone's ever suggested that Guns N' Roses had ripped these people off. Do you think
because that would be because
Australian Crawl had ever heard Sweet Child of Mine, there's no way they wouldn't have gone, oh, this is a rip-off of our song. And then they would have gone, we want some money out of that, wouldn't they? Clearly. So Mother Johnson says, then surely a deal must have been done before Sweet Child of Mine came out. Because you've never heard of anybody launching a legal action against them.
No, because that would be news, wouldn't it?
Absolutely massive news, yeah. There must have been some deal between Geffen, Guns N' Roses and Australian Crawl that they were able to reinterpret this. Have you actually gone and looked what the writing credits are on Sweet Child of Mine?
I haven't. Have you?
I haven't either, and I think we have to do that because otherwise we might be talking out of our hats. Because maybe there are credits on this for the guys out of Australian Crawl. Do we know? Let's have a look.
Have a little look. Have we unearthed
composers Slash and Izzy Stradlin?
Okay.
So that's even more interesting. The plot thickens.
It does.
It's a brilliant bit of detective work from you, and I found that very interesting. And I'm absolutely with you 100% that there is no way that Sweet Child of Mine exists without that song. It's just not possible.
It's on YouTube, or you can go and listen to it on Spotify. Their album's up there. They're all right. They sound a bit like the Cars. That song, it's Sweet Child of Mine.
So go and listen to Unpublished Critics by Australian Crawl and let us know whether you agree with us that that song is an absolute precursor of Sweet Child of Mine. And if anyone's got any theories as to how there's never been any talk of this, if you're in the Mother Johnson camp and you think there's deals have been done, shady deals in the dead of night, then let us know.
We have.
And here's another one.
Here's another one.
The fact that you'd mentioned this song that was clearly in the world of Sweet Child of Mine, I came across something else that was sort of similar. Do you know who Paul Nicholas is?
He was an actor, wasn't he?
Correct. Still alive. British actor. He'd been a young, up-and-coming West End theatre kid, and he was in one of the original productions of Hair in the West End. You know, right. the classic musical Hair.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can't remember how I got into this rabbit hole, but it was really good. And it basically was talking about the fact that Paul Nicholas had also been in a film, I think it came out in 1979, and it was called Yesterday's Hero. And it's based on a book by Jackie Collins. So it's a bonk buster.
Bonk buster.
Remember the bonk buster?
Yeah.
Apparently, it was loosely based on George Best because it was about a footballer who'd thrown his talent away, chasing the ladies. And Paul Nicholas was in the film, and also he provided some songs for the soundtrack. And there's a song on it called Yesterday's Hero, which is the title of the film. And I read somewhere that it said Yesterday's Hero by Paul Nicholas was written by these two guys who then did a reworking of the song. I don't know whether they were literally involved or they were just given a credit because the person who reworked it acknowledged that it was taken from this original song. And it was Back on My Feet Again, which is the first song on the Babies album, Union Jacks. You know that song? And here I am. I'm back on my feet again. That song.
Right.
And you go and listen to Yesterday's Hero by Paul Nicholas, and it's a bit Australian Crawl Guns N' Roses moment. Except that these two guys actually got credited on the Babies album.
Wow.
But it's really worth going and listening. It's very funny to listen to how it evolved from this song called Yesterday's Hero into Back on My Feet Again.
There is another one. You know the song Shot in the Dark by Ozzy?
Yes.
There's a song called Shot in the Dark that was written by Steve and Chris Overland from FM. Prior to FM, they were in a band called Wildlife. And I think Phil Susan, who became the bass player in Ozzy,
was he in Wildlife?
I think he was in Wildlife, yeah. Okay. And I think when he joined Ozzy, has anybody got any songs?
The song that Ozzy did, Shot in the Dark, ended up sounding remarkably like a song by Wildlife called Shot in the Dark.
Take a listen.
Do they sound similar? That's all we're saying.
Go on YouTube and find FM Shot in the Dark.
Oh, it's FM. I thought it was Wildlife.
FM re-recorded it and then listen to Ozzy's Shot in the Dark.
Very interesting. I like the idea of finding songs that sound very similar to other songs. So if any of the single digit listeners have got this same thing of going, oh, I've heard a song, and then suddenly we go, that sounds remarkably similar to something else, let us know. Tell me what non-plagiaristic album you've been listening to this week, Hunnsy.
I've been listening to an absolutely amazing record this week. It's one of my favourites. I've been listening to the second studio album by American band Queensrÿche called Rage for Order. Do you know that record?
Right. The only Queensrÿche record I've really ever had any time to spend on is Operation Mindcrime, because it's so silly.
Silly?
Well, it's good, but it's silly. Dr. X and all that. No,
I know.
Very sixth form, isn't it?
It's one of the best metal albums. It's the album that I just don't think Iron Maiden have ever been good enough to make.
Oh, controversial.
Have you heard Rage for Order?
I haven't listened to Queensrÿche since I was about 7.
Rage for Order was the prequel to Mindcrime. It gave us a bit of an indication of where they were going. The warning was to full-on heavy metal album, Queen of the Right and all that sort of stuff.
I never liked his singing. Don't like operatic singers, as you know.
No, you don't, do you?
No.
You don't. I think you'll really like the music on Rage for Order.
What's the most famous song on Rage for Order?
It was actually a cover version. There's a song on the album called Gonna Get Close to You.
Lisa Dalbello. Have you ever heard her album?
I've gone back and listened to her version, and that was the first single from the album. It's a great song. And what's really good about this is that Queensrÿche remained true to the original.
Quite quirky, wasn't it?
Yeah. This record was pretty much when they first moved into that. I guess people call it progressive metal. People call this album the birth of progressive metal because of the way that they use keyboards, the way that they use the 2 guitars, the production, lots of different time changes, lots of reverse echoes on the vocals. But at its core, it's still a heavy metal record. They take all the essence of heavy metal, great riffs, but they add all these elements in, which you hear very clearly on that Dalbello, Gonna Get Close to You. And they write an entire album around that sound, and it's just fucking brilliant.
Gonna Get Close. And it was on Lisa Dalbello's album from 1984. Interesting fact about Lisa Dalbello. That album, I think it's pronounced Human Forces, actually. Oh, it might be Human Forces. It's spelled WHOMAN. FOURSOY, so it might be Human Forces, it's supposed to be. I don't know. But co-producer Mick Ronson.
Oh.
Interesting. I wonder if they were lovers. They might have been.
But anyway, Rage for Order, 1986, they talk about the dangers of artificial intelligence.
That's interesting.
And government intrusion. Operation Mindcrime was a very political album.
Maybe I've been harsh. I remember at the time thinking, it felt very sixth form essay kind of thing. But maybe...
No. I think I read an interview where they said that this album essentially is about love, politics and technology.
All of which are still very important today.
Very important today. It's not a forgotten Queensrÿche album, not amongst Queensrÿche fans. A lot of people hail this as better than Mindcrime. It was the album that set the scene for what they were going to do on the next 2 or 3 albums. So It's well worth going back. The only criticism I've got of it is whoever did the styling of them on the artwork on the back.
I seem to remember they had some tremendous hair that was defying gravity, didn't they?
They had hair that was defying gravity, that was permed within an inch of its life.
And going upwards,
and they're wearing long trench coats.
Makeup, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was 86, so glam was the thing, and I don't know whether the record company went, right, you haven't made an album that sounds very glam, but you've got to fucking look glam.
Stick this on your head.
I remember picking up the album and looking at the back going, what's going on here? But don't let that fool you. This is a phenomenal piece of work, Rage for Order.
I'm going to give it another chance. I haven't listened to Queensrÿche in many, many years, so maybe I should go back.
There's a track that I think you'll particularly love. It opens up side 2, and it's my favourite track on the album, and it's the one that has got the most interesting time changes. It's got the most interesting vocals. I think it's got the most interesting sound. There's a track called Noi Rigel. London's a great track. Killing Words is awesome. Surgical Strike's just a brilliant metal song. It's seriously a phenomenal record.
Okay, so ignore the glam rock look. Listen to the music.
Yeah, totally ignore the glam rock look.
Okay, well, that's a good segue into what I've been listening to.
Oh, have you been listening to Pretty Boy Floyd?
No, I've gone back to the source. Real glam rock.
Oh, Slade. Oh.
No, the album I've been listening to, all the way back to 1974, more than 50 years ago. Incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
Sweet Fanny Adams. Do you know that?
Do I know that album? When you said Sweet, I thought you were going to say Desolation Boulevard.
So I'm talking about the English version of Sweet Fanny Adams. I didn't really know this record until this week, because anyone who grew up in England in the 70s will know that Sweet were huge as a part of the glam rock movement. But their songs, the ones that everybody knew that were on the radio, sort of Ballroom Blitz and Blockbuster and all that kind of stuff. And Sweet Fanny Adams actually didn't really know the album at all. And what's interesting about it is it's their second album, and it doesn't feature any of the songs that immediately, if the Sweet were mentioned, people would go, oh yeah, I know that by the Sweet. I know that. Some of the bonus tracks on various reissues stuck on things like Ballroom Blitz and Blockbuster and Hellraiser and Teenage Rampage and all the ones that were big hits. But the actual album itself was just 9 songs, and none of them would be what you'd call big Sweet hits. But it's a great record.
Brilliant
and a
record.
very interesting, slightly surprising that most of the songs on it are more hard rock than glam rock. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
There are a couple of songs that are clearly written to be on the radio and that stompy glam rock stuff. Like there's a song called Peppermint Twist.
And Rebel Rousette.
But then songs like Set Me Free and Heartbreak Today and No You Don't, really tough sounding hard rock songs with great sense of melody, great attitude, and some of that, I suppose, more pop sensibility in the way it's played. It swings a little bit.
One of my brother's earliest memories was I was in his bedroom with him, and I just started playing air drums to the Sweet when I was about 3-4 year old.
And the die was cast.
The die was cast.
There was no turning back.
Isn't the last track on this album called AC/DC?
Yeah, but it's nothing about the music. It's quite raw for 1974. It's about a bisexual lover, isn't it? I was like, wow, when I was looking at the lyrics this morning, I was going, that's a bit out there for what's supposed to be a pop band in 1974.
Exactly. 3FA, which is a song on the album, it's like a punk rock song. I'm listening to that going, that was like 1974, 1973 when they recorded it, and like they're doing like punk, Sweet were like pioneers, man. They were so important. Kiss were hugely influenced.
Well, they were influenced by a lot of the glam rock bands, weren't they? Did you know, very unfortunate piece of information, Vince Neil did a cover of that song, AC/DC. Oh dear. I've never heard it.
Oh, he didn't, did he?
He did.
Oh dear. There we are again, talking about Motley Crue.
on his album with the terrible title Tattoos and Tequila. Strangely, I haven't heard it. I did meet Steve Priest, bass player from The Sweet.
Did you?
Yeah, I met him in the early 80s in New York, of all places. Bizarre meeting. I met him at a King gig. Do you remember King?
Love and Pride.
Yeah. They were friends of Queensrÿche because they had hair that defied gravity as well. I saw them in New York with a friend of mine who lived there. She worked in the music business, and she somehow knew Steve Priest, and Steve Priest was at this gig. He wasn't in all his glam getup. He'd gone normcore by then, which was a shame because obviously I liked him when he was in his glam gear.
Yeah.
But there you go. That was my one claim to fame, that I met Steve Priest at a King gig in New York, probably in about 1984 or something like that.
He sadly passed away.
Sadly passed, yeah.
They're still going, right? So they're still playing.
They're just about to stop, actually. I think they're on their last tour, of their farewell tour, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think Andy Scott's the last surviving member, isn't he?
Yeah, have you seen him recently? Oh, dear.
Well, come on, he's got to be in his...
It's not that, it's his hair.
Brilliant, isn't it? Yeah,
Dougal, off the Magic Roundabout. But hey, whatever he wants, because he made Sweet Fanny Adams. It's a great record, and I've been listening to it this week, and I would highly recommend it.
What a brilliant choice. I did have Desolation Boulevard in my list of things to listen to and bring to the table on the pod. You've beaten me to it with Sweet Fanny Adams.
Yeah, it's well worth a listen, that, though. I might listen to it again today.
Yeah, it's a great record.
So there we go. We're out of time already. Can you believe it? Got through a lot, though, as we always do.
Prattled on about potential libelous claims at the start of the pod.
Yes, we did indeed. We're flying by the seat of our satin pants. There you go, mate. Good talking.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you.
See you later.
See you. Bye.
Bye.